So,
Okay.
we have an interview here with Robert S. Connett. Let's see what we got here. All right, Robert. So, as you know, and you've heard me talk about it before, I have been a fan of your art since the pioneering days of Vomitus Maximus back in the
Really?
'90s. Yeah, and I mean, it captivated me as I was a teenager back in those days, and it just, I would get on the internet back then, AOL dial up, and
Uh,
seeing a Connett painting, just my whole perspective changed on everything.
well,
And I kind
that's
of want to go
cool.
back to that time, back to the beginning. Um, I understand that you were self-taught in doing this.
Yes,
Uh, what got you interested in creating these emotional pieces that
because, okay, how should I put this? I started drawing and painting. Well, we got to go way, way back, of course. I started when I was 4 years old. And the first time I did a drawing, I got recognition from my parents, and they said, "Oh, this is pretty good." And I'm going, okay, it's good. So I'm going to continue to do this. I went to school, same kind of thing. I found out I had a talent that
yeah.
was my thing. I was way better at this than any of the other kids, and at other things, I was shit. So this is what I concentrated on. This is what I focused on all through school. I would draw, not listening to the lessons. I managed to learn how to read and write and a little bit of arithmetic, but never liked school. I just used to draw in class and got into a lot of trouble. Yeah, that's all I ever did. I didn't pay much attention. I didn't do well in school at all. And the more trouble I got into in school, the more I would hide within my drawings. I was constantly a drawer. This is before I had anything to paint with, way back, you know. I mean, I was so bad. I was in the San Francisco public school system. Okay, we're talking about the 50s. And I was in so much trouble in that school that they actually sent me to a
Oh,
psychologist.
jeez.
Yeah. And there, of course, the psychologist was all about me drawing, trying to get out my emotions and so forth, catharsis. Uh, and what that guy didn't really realize was he was feeding my habit, and and he was changing what I was doing. This is why most of the artwork I did in the beginning years was very much cathartic. It was very much emotional. It was very kind of what they call dark art today. Uh, there was lots of people being cut up and bloodied and blown up and tortured, and like the little man that lived in my head being tortured, the little child in my head being tortured. I'm still that little child. No matter how old I get, I'm still a little child living in my head. And I can't believe that the world is disintegrating around me, but indeed it is.
It
So,
is, but there's so much emotion in raw power. I mean, I'd say it's definitely dark art. It's imaginary. It's vivid. Like the textures, everything. Every time I look at your pieces, even from back then to now, it's a dream state. I mean, stuff of both dreams and nightmares sometimes, but
well,
but it was.
it was. It's
Uh,
changed a lot. It's different now because
it is.
I'm more objective.
Mhm.
I suppose with age, we become a little more objective about life, most of us, I included. And sometimes I miss those monstrous emotions that used to surge through my mind back in those days. They're still there, they're just suppressed. I think that's what people do. That's how I live. Um, Learning how to function in life. But I I always kept up with my art, no matter what I did. Back in the old days before the internet, it was very difficult to make a living as an artist. especially for a person who didn't go to art school. I, my parents and my teachers very much were for my art for a long time. You know, they encouraged me to be an artist. You have a great talent, be an artist. But then at a certain point, when I became a teenager, that changed because all of a sudden, the powers that be, the parents, the school system, and so forth, says, well, wait a minute, you need a job. You need to make money. You're not going to be an artist. Nobody becomes an artist. That's impossible. That's a 1 in a million shot. That's less than a million, 1 in a million shot. So they, especially the parents, they didn't like the art anymore. I don't come from an artistic family. I come from a place where there was nothing on the walls, which drove me insane
Really?
because I need constant visual stimulus. I mean, if you can see behind me, there's no square inches on my walls that aren't covered by
I
something that
do.
is stimulating to me
Mhm.
emotionally, or you know, like I have insects and pictures of people and just things that I like. And that's what my art is too. You know, I just draw what I like. And fortunately, a certain percentage of the human beings also like what I like. My art is, you know, I'm blessed that eventually I came to a point where I am now that many other people enjoy what I do.
Oh yeah, no, no, they do. And like I say, it fills our dreams, it captivates our imagination. Um, so okay, so going this, how would you actually just describe the style that you've come up with, and the emotion surrounding it? I mean, eh, we have embraced it. I have my own descriptions of it, but I want to hear your description of how this style is and how it's evolved.
Okay, in the beginning, it was like psychological representationalism,
Hmm.
representing my emotions, my psychology. You know, I wasn't going for anything beautiful. That came later. My interest in the world, nature, and so forth came a little while later after I sort of expelled or came to terms with some of the emotional turmoil that I used to use my artwork for as a way to get that out, to vomit up the emotions that were tearing through me like they do tear through young people. So, as I said, psychological representationalism, that could have been a name for it at one point, but now it's a little bit more than that. Now it's that, but it's also that I'm in love with the world, with the planet. I've become more objective. I love nature. I discovered nature, of course, when I was younger too. You know, that was a place to go for me. I lived in San Francisco in the inner city part of the city. And so I had nowhere to go to find actual nature, you know, but I loved it anyway. I loved it because, you know, I would see it once in a while and I thought, wow, that's a place that is, you know, the wildness and the beauty in nature was a place to go to soothe the savage beast that was living in my mind. I used to look at cars, you know, back in those days, cars had grills.
Hmm.
Okay. They all had big radiator grills. I'm talking the 50s, man. And so I would go up the street and look at every grill. And I could tell somebody went on a little vacation or drove up to the mountains or something because they'd have all these insects in their grills. And I would pick them out. And that's how I started my insect collections, you know, butterflies and so
I
forth
love
that
it.
got stuck in the grills of cars that went
Mhm.
driving out of the city. And I found some beautiful stuff, man. Uh, should I had a big collection back then, of course, as a kid. You know, your collections don't usually weather the storm of your growing up, and mine didn't. Um, but I collect insects now too. I
Oh,
have like,
nice.
yeah, I have over like
I,
300 specimens. Uh,
Yeah, like all pinned up on the board
yeah,
and
yeah, you
labeled.
can
Oh,
see
that's
some
so
of them
amazing.
behind me there. You see where my fingers see? Those
Oh,
are way back there. That's some giant one. I didn't catch
I
these
love it.
things. These were from
Mhm.
Borneo and all over Southeast Asia and so forth. But it's fascinating and
Mhm.
inspiring to me. Some of my paintings are dedicated to worlds that are filled with insects and so forth. And
And
so anyway, that's
yeah,
part of
that's
me.
one of the things, you often cite inspiration like this from Oceania, animals of the ocean. I mean, your work really gives this whole new perspective to this amazingly bizarre world that's around it. It so what I mean, elaborate more on what about the oceanic life, and it sounds like you even have further connections into the insects that we've talked about. But what draws you to this, that especially the oceanic life that you
Yeah.
paint so vividly?
Well, when I was very young, again,
Mhm.
I think the pattern of our life generates outward, reverberates outward from your young years, your formative years, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are extremely important years. They form how you look at the world. My father loved the ocean. He was an old Navy guy and he had a boat and he would take me out on this boat out from San Francisco Bay. We'd get up at like 5 in the morning and go down to Municipal Pier uh, and buy bait at Muni Bait and Tackle, which is still there,
Mhm.
and go out and the fog in San Francisco. We go out to this boat that he had. It looked like a ship to me, but I was just a kid, so it was probably not a big one. And we used to go out fishing uh, past the Golden Gate Bridge out into the Marin County area where you'd go into these coves. This is what I remember the most. I mean, we used to go out way out there and catch big fish. But what I loved the most was going into anchor into these coves that were surrounded by huge cliffs with pine forests all around, which was something, that tied into my love of nature too. And it was very still, deep water. And you'd look down in that water and I remember thinking that there was just a universe of life down in there, which really there was.
Oh yeah.
We would catch the most outrageous creatures, everything from these beautiful leopard sharks to these rays and these kelp fish that look like something from outer space. I saw gigantic sharks that were as big as the boat, you
Mhm.
know, uh, and we went out every weekend for a long, long time, many years. And that's where I picked up, I think, it's got to be where I picked up my love of sea life and my imagination looking down into that water. That's the image I have. Looking down there and seeing things that maybe I was the only one seeing them, but these things twirling and swirling around down in that abyss, that endless darkness, and coming up and going back. And I thought, here's this dragon, there's this thing here, that thing, the jellyfish, man, there was so many kinds of jellyfish and crustaceans, different kinds of crabs. And yeah, that's where I get to see thing, the
And
ocean
it,
thing.
well, and it is so emotionally, like you said, you have this need to get all of this out, and it's now drawn into this ocean life that you described. I mean, how does that help you really, I don't know, deal with a lot of the day-to-day things that you've described as frustrate you? But
Well, yeah, I have always been a depressed person. God knows why. I think it's a chemical thing. It's just some people are like that. You
yeah.
just depressed. I wake up, I'm depressed. There's no good reason for it. God knows, I have had problems in my life. People have died. People, I've had even worse situations than death. Everyone who lives long enough experiences that sort of thing. And that's a good reason to be sad. But then there are people that are just sad. And that's like it's, I don't know if you can say it's a disease, but I know that my depression has been awful for me sometimes, and this has always been the way I can escape. If I feel terrible, if I sit in front of my easel or in front of a drawing pad and I draw, just get into that. It's almost like a meditation. It's like a zone that I get into. The rest of the world disappears and I can feel good again. It's better than a drug. And I've had problems with drugs too. I used to drink a lot. I don't drink or do any of that anymore, but I had for many years, I was doing a lot of alcohol and stuff. And that, of course, exacerbates the whole problem. And creativity saved my life, really, because, some of my friends died
Yeah.
doing the shit that we did. And I managed to escape because I knew that I had something that I could cling to and to go to as a safe harbor. And that's what my work is. And that's why I'm driven to do it and always have been. Before I made any money or got any kind of acknowledgement from anyone, I was always doing this artwork. I would go home at night. I worked many, many jobs. And always I would go home and rather than just, watch TV and crash out and go on the next morning and onward and onward and onward, I had my drawings. I had my painting eventually. And without that, I'm absolutely sure I wouldn't be here talking to you right now because that has become.
Well, yeah, we're so happy you are, because you have, I mean, inspired us. Everybody that's listening to this, I know, just the inspiration that has come from your work, the gift that you have given us. We are so happy for this enjoyment, this ability to see, just a glimpse through your eyes is amazing.
Well, that's an honor. I'm honored by that. I truly am.